As you can see, when we power this particular machine on, we have got a smashed screen here. It's damaged in the bottom here, there's cracks, and you can see the liquid crystal display just bleeding out like ink blots, and we've got these characteristic lines going up and down. This is a smashed screen. The battery and the power must be removed from the laptop. If you try to fit the screen with the laptop powered, then you can actually short the connector and you'll damage the motherboard and the screen. Here's a typical set of tools that you'll need to replace any laptop screen. The most important one is a small screwdriver. Usually this will be a Phillips type head. You can buy a set of small screwdrivers like that from your local hardware store or online. Some people will need a small sharp knife. I'll come on to that later. And a debit card can be very handy, or a guitar pick. The next thing we need to do is open our laptop and actually have an examination here of how the screen is actually put together. So in this particular one, we can see that there is a plastic frame around it, which is called a bezel. And we've got these small rubber dust covers here. This is where our knife will come in handy to remove those. So I'll show you that in a minute, but we're going to have a look at some other laptops to just get an idea of how the lids are put together on different machines. Here's another one. This one, it looks the same as the other one. It's got the plastic frame or bezel, but this one actually doesn't have any dust covers here. So we can assume that this particular one doesn't appear to have any screws holding the plastic frame or the bezel on the front. This laptop is slightly different in that this one doesn't actually have any bezel or plastic frame. We've got just smooth glass all the way to the edge of the screen here. Now these kind of laptops, I'm going to say, are professional installation only usually. Often we've got screens for this kind of laptops, but we don't actually have this front glass piece, which is actually usually glued or bonded on with a double-sided tape. A professional would use a heat gun on this glass all the way around the edge to actually separate the glass from the lid part of the laptop at the back here. The next thing to do is identify the type of laptop we've got. Usually the model number will either be around the screen or the top of the keyboard. If you don't see anything, it's usually on the base. This one is called an Acer book. This is a compact Presario CQ42. This is an HP Compact NC6220. And this one is a Lenovo ThinkPad, and here it is in the corner, X240. You'll often, if you don't find it around the top of the laptop, as I said, you'll usually find something on the base which explains which model you've got there. If you can't identify the laptop model, or you want to be 100% sure you're getting the right screen, or your laptop, for example, model comes with different configurations of screen and you're not sure which one to pick, we always recommend getting the screen model number. So you probably want to follow this video through to the end and watch how to remove the screen, and then you can get the screen model number. But here we've got a 15.6 inch screen here, and if I look on the back, we've got a sticker here. So this particular screen is an AU Optronics screen, and the model number here is B156 XW04 version 0. We've got another screen here. This is a 14-inch screen, and this one is made by Innolux, and the model number here is N140 HCG-EQ1 revision C1. And we've got a bow high disc screen here. This is a 12.5 inch screen, and the model number is at the top there. It's HB125WX1-200. Now, did you see what the giveaway on the part number is here? This one is a 12.5 inch screen, and the model number is HB125 or 12.5. This is a 14 inch screen, and the model number is N140 or 14.0. And this was, of course, a 15.6 inch screen, and the model number on this was B156 or 15.6. So we've actually got an article on our website that explains all about how to identify the screen model numbers. So now we know which screen we're ordering, either whether it's by the screen model number or the laptop model number. We can just get a screen delivered to us pretty quickly, and this is how they come packaged. The boxes have very strong sides so that they don't get crushed in the post, and we just open the box and our screen is well packaged inside. Here it is, underneath the bubble wrap, and with foam at each side to stop it from moving around in the box. So we'll start with an easy one first. We're going to remove the bezel from this Lenovo ThinkPad. This is where our debit card or credit card comes in handy. What we want to do is just get that underneath the plastic and just nudge that apart all the way around. Once we've got a piece off, we can then just very carefully pull it, and it's like one of these plastic snapping mechanisms that snap back together when we put it back. Now, sometimes you'll find that the manufacturer has used a bit of double-sided tape at the bottom here. So in those cases, you might feel like it's very stuck and you can't get it away. That's again where our debit card is handy to just kind of separate that tape if there is any. And then the bezel literally just comes off like that. Now, this particular screen is actually just sitting in the lid of the laptop, and I can actually just pull it forwards and lay it flat onto the keyboard. Now, some laptops, they actually have used a double-sided tape to actually stick the screen to the back lid. And again, this is where our debit card comes in handy to just try to remove that tape. When you replace the screen, we don't send you double-sided tape, and the reason we don't is because we don't actually recommend people use it, because if you have a warranty issue with the machine, and we obviously give you the generous 2 years warranty, you will find that you may actually physically damage the screen trying to get it back out of the lid. So the glue isn't actually needed, and actually on this particular Lenovo they don't use the glue at all. The screen sits in place, and once the frame is back it won't move. The screen connector is here, and you can see that there is a cable actually coming from the base of the laptop here going into the back of the screen. So this is what we've got to carefully remove. So here's the connector with the cable plugged into the back of the screen, and there's a little bit of tape here that the manufacturer have used, and they've just taped this cable here so that it doesn't fall out. I'm just going to gently peel that off. We can keep that for later to put it back. So as we can see on this screen, we've got some clips here which actually hold the connector in place, which I'm going to need to just flip up. And as you can see, it's like a kind of bar which comes down and pushes over the connector, and that again is another way to stop the connector falling out. If your laptop screen has got this bar, then you need to lift this up first. Not all of them do, as we'll see when we do some other models. But once that's up, then the connector will just literally just pull out the bottom, and we can take our screen, our old broken one, away. This laptop is the same in that it doesn't have any screws in the corners, so we can use our credit card again or debit card to just prise away this bezel. This machine has a slightly different style bezel here, in that we can see in the corners we've got some dust covers. Now this is where our sharp knife comes in handy. So using the sharp knife, I'm going to get it just underneath this dust cover and lift it away carefully, and we can see we've got a small screw under there, and I'm going to keep this in a safe place. Once we've removed the covers from each corner, we can use a small screwdriver such as this one to just take these screws out. We'll keep those in a safe place. If your small screwdriver is magnetic, that will help you to take the screws out. If they won't come out, then once it's fully unscrewed, you can use your sharp knife just to lift them out of the hole there. They may just be stuck in there with a little bit of glue. Now the screws are out, we do our same trick with our card. Some people can actually use their fingernails for this. It obviously just depends on how your fingernails are, but I found a place there I can get it in, and we can start to just gently come around here. I can feel there's a bit of tape there holding that in, but as you can see, that's now starting to come apart. Now I'm going to be careful with this because this is quite a small laptop, and I can see that this particular bezel is delicate. I always recommend that you keep your screws in a little container, a little shot glass, something like that, plastic lid, because they're very easy to lose, they're very small, and these screws are not standard kinds of screws, so if you lose them you won't be able to replace them, so look after the screws. Here our screen is actually fitted in a slightly different way, in that we've actually got screws in the corners here holding the screen in each corner, so these will have to be removed. So I'll just remove the tape which is holding the connector on. I'm going to be very careful not to damage the cable there when I remove that. But this connector, if we look at it, it actually doesn't have any wire clip coming around this holding it on. So this one literally just pulls off. It's almost falling off on its own. There we go. And now we can remove the screen. This kind of laptop, where you see the screen actually falls behind the base there, it's on a hinge there and it sits below the base of the laptop, these can sometimes be a little bit problematic in that sometimes you have to take the screws out of the bottom of the machine and take the base off, and then you'll actually unscrew the hinges from here and here, and the whole lid will have to come off. Now if you do that, if you have to do that, we always recommend you're very careful with this, that you do it on a flat surface so that you don't rip the lid off quickly and damage any cables. But these kind of laptops, sometimes you have to actually take the lid off the base first. On this particular machine, we can actually find that there are actually a couple of screws here under the rubber feet on here as well. Once the base comes away, we're left with something like this, and then what we can see is in the corners here, the hinges of this lid are actually screwed in there. We've got two screws here and two in this corner which we're going to take out. So once the screws are removed, the lid will actually come away from the base like this, but we want to be very careful because we don't want to damage the cable which comes from the base of the machine and plugs into the screen. Now the cable that runs to the screen, I'm just going to unplug it from here, and it just pulls off like this, and I'll take away the base, and that just snaps off and comes away like so. Now what we have here is we have the lid of the laptop and the screen, and on examination I can see that we've got some small screws here in the sides which are holding this particular screen in. Once the screws have been removed, the screen will just lift forwards out of the lid. Now be very careful because we can see we've got the webcam cable here which is connected to the connector on the back of the screen, and we've got this cable which plugs into the base of the laptop, so we need to be very careful here we don't damage those. So let me lay that flat on the table. Again, we've got a little bit of manufacturer's sticky tape here which I'm just going to remove. You can usually pick this off with a nail, and I'll just take that off carefully without damaging the cable. We have to be careful. So that's it. And then this connector, this one, just like most of them do these days, it just pulls off. That's it. So now we have our screen free of the machine, free of the lid, and we can replace it. So now we're ready to replace our screen. We'll take our replacement screen out of the box. And there's a couple of things I need to tell you about this, but they often come with this protective film which is over the glass. Now this is quite a thick kind of plastic, and this you leave that on until you've fitted it. Now you can, if you're wearing gloves like me, you can just take this off, but these are usually there to protect the screen in fitting. Now some screens also have another layer of film on them which I'm going to show you now. So fitting the new screen is exactly the reverse of the removal. I'm just going to lay a plastic bag that the screen came in over the top of the keyboard, but anything soft will be fine. And I just lay the new screen on top of there, and we can see the cable here. We just need to plug the cable back in. So here we are, we're going to refit the cable. Now it's very important that the cable is fitted correctly and straight and not at any angles. You'll know when it's gone in properly because it will fit just nicely and make a good connection here. You don't want this to go in lopsided or half in like this. You want a nice clean connection, because if the cable is misfitted you can risk damaging the machine and the screen. Now most laptops that's all you need to do, but this one has this extra bar that goes over there. Reconnecting the connector on this one is simple again. This one just pushes in. And again, we've got to make sure that it's in straight and that there's no twist in this cable. These cables mustn't be twisted or put in taut. That's got to be straight. And of course, then we can replace the tape that the manufacturer used to just hold that in place there like that. Now the screen just sits back. I just tilt it back and it just sits back in place where it was before. I can take away the plastic bag. Some screens, as we said, they will have different fittings. Some of them will have screws in the corners that you have to replace. This particular one doesn't. Usually the laptops with thinner lids have the screws that you need to that don't have the screws that you need to replace. And then the bezel, I just sit it back in place and it'll literally just push. You hear it snapping. And I just push that in all the way around until we have it in nicely. So this machine again, we're going to start with the bezel at the bottom, clip it into place, make sure that it's flush here properly, and then we just work our way around, snapping that back into place. And this one actually had some screws that we need to replace in the corners and some little plastic covers, so I'm just going to do that now. If you find there is still a little bit of a gap here between the bezel and the screen, that it's not fitting flush to the screen as you want, it may be that you haven't got the bezel on correctly and you may need to take that off gently again and refit it. All I've done here is just remove the bezel again and refit it here from the left to the right, and I've got it flush this time. You can, of course, use a double-sided tape behind here. We don't like them because they make it more difficult to get the screen out if you need to, but you can do that.